What's up, guys? So, got my 95 Jeep ZJ. Just finished putting everything back together on it, I don't know, like a week ago. Took it for a test drive. I did a rear main seal, the converter seal on the transmission, a couple other things, just like real simple stuff. When I pulled the pan off the transmission to do a fluid flush, I found a lot of metal in the trans. I'll throw a pic of that in real quick. Show you guys that, and I've never had a problem with the trans. Shift smooth, everything was working great. Truck's got like 190k on it, but as you know, you really shouldn't flush fluid when you got high miles on a truck and everything's working fine. So I had to flush it because I wanted to do the filter and I had the pan off anyway. I flushed it, took it for a test drive, everything was going good. I put like 10 miles on the car. I'm coming back to my house and I turn on my road and the truck just stops. It doesn't stop, but it starts like binding up, like as if I broke a tooth on like the rear. The wheels start like chalking up and binding up. I'm getting like a really loud metal on metal noise, and it's just struggling. I'm going like 2-3 miles an hour back to my house, and the wheels are just binding up. It's getting hung up and stuff. So the picture that I inserted for you guys to show you the metal in the trans, I was like, alright, well, first off, I only had a quart or half a quart of trans fluid in the transfer case. I ran out of fluid. I was going to go to the parts store. I was like, oh, it'll be fine for right now. So I only had half a quart of fluid in the transfer case. And like I said, the trans never gave me problems before. So I was like, oh, it's got to be the transfer case. It's locking up or something happened with the transfer case. There wasn't enough fluid in it. So that's what I immediately thought. So I pulled the transfer case out. I went through the whole transfer case. I did a slight rebuild on it, a couple bearings, the seals and stuff on it. I'll insert some pictures of that below. I didn't video any of this, guys. I've just been really busy. So I did a full go through of the transfer case. Wasn't the transfer case. Transfer case isn't the issue. Nothing inside the transfer case showed me that it would have been an issue. Nothing's binding up. I mean, the truck's, it's a V8. It's got 260 foot-pounds of torque, and when you let off the brake in drive, the truck should roll. It was kind of like clunk, 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 like jerking forward and stuff. So it wasn't the transfer case. So I rebuilt the transfer case, put it back in, same noise is still happening. So I was like, alright, you guys saw the metal that came out of the trans. I was like, it's got to be like a bearing in the trans, you know what I'm saying? Something on the rotating assembly on the trans. So I just had this transmission out, so I was like, alright, before I pull it all the way out, let me pull the pan off, see it. There was some metal in it, again, nothing crazy. Probably just left over going through the pump and the cooler and stuff. So I was like, let me pull the tail shaft off. A lot of people have a problem with the bearing in the overdrive section in the tail shaft. So I pull the transfer case back off. I check the rear bearing and the tail shaft. It's fine. So I pull the whole tail shaft off. Pull the valve body off, the whole tail shaft off. Let me grab a flashlight for you guys. Let's take a look at the bearing. Bearing's fine. No noise coming from the bearing at all. So it's not the bearing there. Check the bearing in the overdrive section. Now this isn't just a hum, guys. This was like stopping the truck from moving forward and like locking up the wheels. Bearing's fine. So this is where we're at. I got the transfer case off. Now, mind you, I just had this transfer case and trans out of the truck to do all these seals and stuff. Just got to put back together. The motor's been completely gone through. The truck's never given me any issues. I've changed the front and rear fluid. I got a brand new passenger side axle sitting right there. Both front and rear diffs feel fine. I jacked the car up on all fours Spun the fronts, spun the rears. The differentials feel fine. And now I got the transfer case off once again that I've already gone through and rebuilt. I had all that brand new trans fluid in there, just had to drain that all out, so I got to get all new trans fluid again, a new filter, and I still don't see the issue of what could have been causing this yet. Yeah, I mean, the next step is getting ready to pull the rest of the trans out, which I was trying to avoid doing, but that's about as far as I could take it apart. While it's in the truck, I got to get to the converter side now. So, yeah. So that's where we're at on the ZJ, and it's really pissing me off. I'm thinking maybe it's like the converter, something wrong with the converter, but as of right now, I haven't been able to figure it out. So I basically have the trans almost out. I got 2 more bolts on the bell housing. One you gotta take the oil filter off to get to, and then the starter, and it's out. So once I get the trans the rest of the way out, I'll let you guys know what's going on, but I'm really stumped on this one. So so starter's out. I just have 2 bell housing bolts left. The one's behind the oil filter. The other one is right there. Gotta pop the oil filter off to get to the other one. And then pop this trans out. Alright, so I found a way to take this pump out without the tool. This is for 44 RE transmissions or A500s, Chrysler Dodge Jeep. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 bolts for the pump. Take them out, and 2 of those bolts are going to be threaded on the pump side too, not just the casing side. They're actually bigger threads than the threads are for the actual pump bolts that go into the case of the trans. Just grab a bolt that fits those threads, and then if you got 2 of them, that'd be better. I only got 1. You're going to thread it in, and once it hits the back threads that are smaller, it's going to start to push the pump forward. So I did it a little bit on one side, do a little bit more on this side. See it start to come out. Go back to the other side. If you got 2 of these bolts, it would make life a lot easier, but I don't feel like looking for another one. figure out what the hell's wrong with it. It's this shaft that's... look at that. I don't think... That ain't supposed to be like that. I'll be honest, guys, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I'm not gonna act like I'm some type of fucking technician or pro here. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is the first auto trans I've ever torn apart completely. I'm gonna have to take the on the side. So the goal is to find out what's making this noise. So I don't think that this is supposed to have that much play in it. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is definitely having a hard time spinning. Main goal is I want to figure out where all that metal is coming from. So over here is the band adjustment. Maybe when I put this back together, I'll show you guys how to adjust this. But you're going to have to take that out, the lock nut, to get that front pump out and assemble it. You take this all the way out. This is for your front band. Once this is out, you'll be able to slide that front piece around. I'm not seeing what's wrong yet. We found what's wrong. Holy fuck. Alright. Oh, yep. Oh. Found the problem. Fuck me. See all that metal right there? See how messed up this whole friggin' thing is? All chewed up. Let's go out in the light. Look at that, just pieces of metal. Pieces of metal falling everywhere. So, I don't know what the hell happened here. I'm gonna have to do some more digging. Figure out what caused this, but that was definitely what was locking up, and it started to lock up and it just sheared it. Because this started locking up, and then when I kept trying it and running the tires with all four wheels up in the air and stuff, it started to get like better, but it still sounded horrible, you know. It wasn't locking up, they were spinning, but it still sounded horrible. That's the planetary gear set, not for overdrive, that's for your regular. And that piece slid right onto here, so I don't know what the hell happened. I really don't. I don't know how this happened. Try to understand this real quick. I think there's a bearing that's behind here, and the bearing probably went bad. And caused that to move around, and it just sheared this. So you could see, like, these shiny spots right here. Look at all the metal falling out. I mean, that's chunks of metal. band still even has material on it. I mean, the band's not even like that bad. Oh yeah, dude. Oh my god. Look at this. See what it did to that? Straight sheared it. That's what locks the planetary gears in. Oh, all the needle bearings are coming out of the planetary gears. Yeah, this shredded. Oh my god. Alright, let's get the snap ring pliers and pull that centerpiece off. Alright, so let's take this, to show you guys what happened. This pin backed out of the planetary gear set. This pin holds in the roller bearings and the gears, the sun gears to the ring gears and stuff. And this pin backed out and started hitting the back of this, like this, clunk, clunk. That was the binding up I was getting while this was rotating. Ground this all down to where all the metal came from, and bowed out and burnt this hole. Just fucked everything up. I'll take the snap ring off of this, and we'll see if we can get these gears set out. So that's what failed first.
Yep. That's where all that fucking metal came from.
It's the rear bearing for the ring gear carrier. Then that metal got bound up in the sun gears on the rollers.
Yep. Yeah, it's just working its way forward.
Yeah. Everything's fine back here. Well, as you guys saw, we finally found the problem, and that about wraps it up for finding the issue with the Grand Cherokee trans. So just to sum it up, like I explained to you guys before, quick rundown. I bought this cheap for 300 bucks, local, by my house. It was really clean when I got it. Has the original window sticker from '95 when I bought it. Didn't have these rims and tires on it, so I got it. I threw a 3-inch budget boost puck lift on it. Got a 3-inch Skyjacker lift shocks. I put the roof rack on it, and 33 by 12.5 15 rims and tires. Everything was good, no issues. Motor ran great, trans shifted great. I was getting a slight drip out of the converter seal on the front of the trans, so it would drip a little bit of trans fluid, and of course I had the Jeep rear main seal leak. Oh, I also added this rear bumper. It's not done yet, but it's pretty cool. It's a V8, so I'm big with keeping up on maintenance with my cars, especially this one, because I like to take it in the woods. That's the old Wolfsburg edition. But so I decided to pull the trans out and do the converter seal, do the rear main seal while I had the trans out, and a bunch of other gaskets, sensors, and seals. Just do a nice refresh on it. So a rundown, I did the distributor gasket, oil pressure sending unit, the rear main seal, the oil pan seal on the motor, the front converter seal for the torque converter, a bunch of stuff. This was the list. Did a bunch of stuff on it. But when I dropped the trans out to do everything, do the converter seal and stuff, of course I drained the fluid on the trans. I'll throw in the pic, if you guys didn't already see it, of what I found when I took off the pan. I found a lot of metal, more than normal, and I figured that's got to come from somewhere because the transmission is a sealed unit. But like I said, I've never had problems with this trans or this Jeep before. So I wasn't too concerned about it. I knew it came from somewhere, but I didn't plan on doing a whole rebuild on the trans right then and there. Then an incident had happened. Wasn't my fault. It was a family member's fault. They, long story short, ended up bumping into the transmission, knocking it over, and cracked the bell housing. That wasn't broken, but it was cracked. So, a little redneck engineering, a little bit of JB weld. Said fuck it, JB welded it. Put everything back in the car, everything was fresh. Car ran and drove great. I put about 20 miles on the car. I turned back onto the street where I live, and the car, like the driveline, locks up, starts binding up. I slow down very quickly, doing like 2-3 miles an hour, bucking down the road as if like the rear had just gone, as if it's like skipping teeth. Get it home. When I put everything back together, I only had about a half a quart of transmission fluid to put in the converter. I had to go get more fluid, so put in the transfer case. So I only had half a quart of transmission fluid in the transfer case, and I was like, oh, it's got to be the transfer case that's locking up because it was low on fluid. So after all this happened, I got home. After just putting this whole Jeep back together, everything was working fine. I pulled the transfer case out really quick. I went through the whole transfer case, rebuilt that. Didn't see anything in there that would cause it to bind up or start getting stuck up like it was doing. So I threw the transfer case back in the truck to test it again because I couldn't do anything with the transfer case out. Still had the problem. I'll insert some pictures of me rebuilding the transfer case. I didn't record it. I'm new to this. I'm just starting to record all my work. I'm no pro by any means, but I knew something was still wrong, so I figured maybe it was the rear overdrive bearing in the tail shaft of the trans. So before pulling the whole trans out again, I pulled the tail shaft of the trans off. The rear bearing is fine. In order to do some more digging, the whole trans had to come out. So today, I decided to pull the whole trans out of the car and really get down to the problem. You guys saw I pulled the front pump off, dug a little deeper, and it looks like the planetary gear set for the first and second, if I believe, I don't know, I'm not a transmission builder, but the planetary gear set closest to the front of the pump is shot, and I'll show you what happened. So that basket goes into there, and then this clutch pack goes on top of the basket like this. Now what happened was that pin that looks pressed in on that started backing itself out and hitting this basket right there. That was what it was binding up on, and the clunking, clunk, 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 as it was going around. Backed itself out, did all that damage to that piece, destroyed, let me see if I can get this out again. Hold on a second. Destroyed the planetary gear set. Absolutely destroyed it and melted the basket that it goes into. All the pins fell out, the roller bearings. So yeah, I'm not really sure what caused that. Like I said, before I even did anything to this the first time and decided to do this whole gasket thing and do a bunch of maintenance on this Jeep, the transmission shifted great. I never had a problem with it. No bucking, kicking, anything. The transmission was great. That's why I was surprised to see all that metal when I pulled the pan off for the first time, and it didn't really bother me because everything was working great. Put it back together. Like I said, I put about 20 miles on it and this happened. So from a while ago, I guarantee that that basket started grinding down and going bad. that pin ended up getting hot or something, started backing itself out, and just started ripping everything up. Luckily, most of the transmission is salvageable, so I'm going to start ordering parts for it, and we'll have a video of putting this whole thing back together soon. What I'm going to try and do, if the budget is there for it, is I'm going to try and get a whole new housing for the trans, so we don't have to worry about this crack anymore. Like I said, this is a woods truck, and I got a lot of other vehicles, so I try and put my money where it's most worth it. But I guess for this, since it's already all apart and I don't feel like doing this again, I'm gonna probably get a new bell housing. I'm gonna I might reuse this, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, it's ground down, but if I clean it up, it really shouldn't affect anything, but we'll see. If I could get it and find it easily, I'll get a new one of those. I don't know what it's called. It's like the clutch pack. I'm definitely going to need a new basket and a new planetary gear set for the front of the transmission. But we're about out of time for today, and that wraps it up. I'm going to wash my hands and go take a shower and see if I can get these parts. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and goodbye.